Okay. So, yeah, if I'll just go quiet and I'll just be in the background. Enjoy.
Welcome and thank you for joining the Centre for Sustainable Action's Leadership series. And we are exploring lots of different things each session around sustainability. And today we're focusing on looking at LinkedIn and how to master that for entrepreneurs. And this is a wonderful resource that is being brought to you today by Lisa Thompson. And her work really works in a sustainable way as a leader. She gives back through her social impact. So this is an offering here for you today. So I want to hand you over to Lisa. And her work is amazing, but let's hear what she has to say about LinkedIn today. I'm really looking forward to this resource myself. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you, Poppy. Hello, everybody. And thank you for the welcome and thank you for being part of this initiative. So I'm going to begin by sharing my screen. That's what we're going to do. And I'm going to walk and talk about LinkedIn. And the way that we have it set up today is that we don't have the option for direct questions in this Zoom room that we're in. But of course, when you see the recording, if you're on LinkedIn right now, you can put a question in the chat. So welcome. And we have 30 minutes to talk about LinkedIn. So the title is all around mastering LinkedIn as an entrepreneur, and there really are some fundamental things to focus on as an entrepreneur. So the objective is that it's designed for entrepreneurs and founders to bring clarity and confidence and to help you show up authentically on LinkedIn. My name is Lisa Thompson, and I'm the founder of Your Career Space and Career Story Nights. And without going into reading this sort of little mini story here, my focus is really about enabling people to have meaningful and fulfilling careers. And one of the ways to do that is through LinkedIn and your profile and your presence on LinkedIn. And I believe that everybody can optimize their profile on LinkedIn because it is a platform that is free and available to everybody. And that's why I love it. So if we think about this from a social proof perspective, first impressions happen in search previews. So what I would like for us to think about is that LinkedIn is about not just about your social presence, but it is about your digital presence. And so when you're not meeting people one-on-one and in person, you are meeting them online. And that's what the purpose of this workshop is. So why LinkedIn matters? LinkedIn is actually, even though whenever I ask this question, what's the oldest social media platform? Everyone says Facebook, but actually LinkedIn is the oldest, founded in 2003. There are over 1 billion users on LinkedIn, and I'll talk about this a little bit at the end about the comparison with other social sites. There are over 69 million companies, and that's why I really believe that everybody that is an entrepreneur needs to have a company page because, like I'll say this on repeat, I'll say this so many times through this training, to have a company page and a profile on LinkedIn is free and open to everybody. So 42%, this is just a little bit to talk about. Sometimes there's a gender imbalance, lots of other imbalances too. But there are more people that identify as men than women on the platform. So LinkedIn has over 41,000 skills, and skills are something we are going to talk about when we talk about skills and keywords and how that impacts your profile. And then the last piece is that Bill Gates, who actually, when I do this workshop in person, I say, who owns LinkedIn? LinkedIn is owned by Microsoft. Bill Gates acquired it, I believe, in 2016. And you can see at the bottom here, my source for these facts is from a website that's called Social Shepherd that brings you all of this information about social media statistics. And the thing that's really important here is the size of 1 billion users. And when you think about Instagram that has nearly 3 billion users, LinkedIn having 1 billion users, it's smaller. And then if you think about Bill Gates being the most followed person, he has 38 million followers. Meanwhile, over on Instagram, the most followed when you Google the top 10 profiles on Instagram, Cristiano Ronaldo, the Kardashians, Justin Bieber, and they are in the hundreds of millions. We're talking about followers that equal the size of continents and not just the sizes of small countries, like in the case of Bill Gates. And that's why I believe you have more opportunity getting found on LinkedIn than any other social media platform. So when we think about LinkedIn, essentially the the framing to think about is that it is a search engine and it is a database. And what we want to do with both of those things, the database of it, is to fill it wisely and to fill it with information and content that will help us. So LinkedIn is broken down into three sections. One is called core, the second is recommended, and the third is additional. And what I say to everyone is, at a minimum, let's please make sure that we focus on filling the core sections and the recommended sections. And then, as you become more adept at the platform, you can add in the additional sections. But what we're trying to do is fill the database, because that's what LinkedIn likes. It likes a full database. It likes a complete profile. And these are the fundamentals that I'm going to talk through in the next 25 minutes. Additionally, for entrepreneurs, there are 5 other things that I really believe that we want to focus on. One is your public profile. The second is your company page. The third one is something that's called an SSI, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment, and that means your social selling index. And the fourth one is a service page, and the fifth one is recommendations, where we can get recommendations for the work that we have delivered. So I just want to bring to you Steven Bartlett, who is one of my all-time favorite entrepreneurs, if you like, and the message that he has around LinkedIn.
I think it is your most important platform. I tell all of the founders in my portfolio that until you've cracked LinkedIn and you've got the system up and running, the flywheel, really don't think beyond that. When my founders come to me and they say, I want to start a podcast, I shut down the podcast and I say, you're not using LinkedIn properly yet. I draw this picture out, which I've drawn so many times, that's a pyramid. And at the bottom of the pyramid is LinkedIn, if you're a founder. So make sure your LinkedIn strategy is on point. And only until you've completed that part of the pyramid, you move up to level 2, which could be newsletters, which are a big part of LinkedIn now as well. You've got to figure out what's going to yield the most, and then relative to the yield, which platform is going to require the least investment. You don't need to have 20, 30 people, a pretty big production team to get started on LinkedIn. There's really not another platform where you can do text, video, you can do a PDF like carousel type thing, you can do images, and they all do well. And the return of investment is so high relative to the investment that it is the best place to start. And then you move on. I think the best creators that I've met have gained clarity on what their message is. And it's a unique message. It's a cliche-proof message. One of the phrases we use a lot in our team is, if the world has heard it before, then we don't need to add it again. And as a nice principle for knowing what to post and what the world needs, if the world has heard someone say it before 10 times, 100 times, we don't need to add to it.
So I think this sums it up really beautifully, that when Steven Bartlett talks about this, he talks about that most founders skip this foundational step and they jump straight to the shiny object of, I'm going to start a podcast, I'm going to launch a newsletter, I'm going to, live stream. And really, this is the foundational step in your marketing pyramid. So that's why I include that in here. Now, one of the things that is really key to understand on LinkedIn is how it is performing for you. And the social selling index is part of Sales Navigator, and that's one of the premium subscriptions that LinkedIn offers. You do not need to have a premium subscription to access this. But what we are doing here, this is mine, by the way, this is my score. What we are looking at, because this is what LinkedIn is measuring you for as a professional, and it's under 4 areas. It's your professional brand, it's finding the right people, it's insights, and it's relationships. And what it's doing is giving you a score based on your profile. And the 2 things of how it ranks that, one is your industry. And maybe Sean, you can just let me know in my WhatsApp if you can see my cursor when I do that. And the second one is your network. So there are two scores at the top here. One is 1% and one is 2%. And those two things of where LinkedIn is pulling how your profile is performing, that's why I've included this early on, are on your profile. It's almost impossible to score over 70, I will tell you. I think in the whole time that I've been training people on LinkedIn, which is nearly 3 years, I've met one person that scores over 70 on LinkedIn. So to score anything above 50 is great. Thank you, Sean. So let me click to the next slide. This is the QR code, and what I would say is that when you scan this QR code, you're going to want to dive into it. But if I could ask you to pause, just have the QR code. There's also a URL underneath here, and then come back to it, and you're going to fill in the information that LinkedIn needs from you to generate your social selling index. And you're probably thinking, why is she asking us to do this? Well, it's great to do it today and take a screenshot like I have of how your profile performs today. Then to spend some time updating your profile, working through the best practices that I've put together here in this presentation, and wait a couple of weeks and then score yourself again. And hopefully what you will get is an improvement in one of those 4 key areas. So what is it connected to? Your social selling index is connected to your industry and your location. And like everything that is, like I talked about in the beginning, a database, lots of people don't have their industry set correctly. I worked with somebody recently who used to be in digital marketing and worked in a large corporation, and now he is a coach, but his profile still had him ranked under digital marketing. So of course, he wasn't getting the right visibility and reach with his profile. So that's what we need to make sure that we update. And what I do in this presentation is in the bottom left-hand corner is I talk about how you can navigate to the places that I'm showing. The me icon is essentially, it's your little icon that you see of you. And that's how you're going to navigate to it. Me icon, contact information, pencil in the right-hand corner, and update your industry. So your LinkedIn profile, there are 5 key things that we are going to talk about today. And this is probably, I don't know, 25% of the broader body of work that you can do on LinkedIn. But if we were to master these 5 things, this will really help you as a founder and an entrepreneur. So the first thing that you want to make sure that you do is turn off notifications, because every time that we do something on LinkedIn, we update our job, we update our location, LinkedIn will automatically give you the opportunity to share that with your network. You probably don't want to be sharing everything with your network. So just turn off notifications before you begin. Little reminder. The most important part of your LinkedIn profile, and I have to say, there's a lot of my profile in this presentation because I do have to use my own because of having permission from other people. So on your introduction, which this is here, you have a personalized URL, you have verification, you have buttons, you have pronouns, work and education, location, industry, and current role. And all of that is in this intro of your profile. And that's why it's so important to get this part correct. And we're going to talk a little bit more in detail about each one of these. The other thing that is really, really, really important is your contact information. And you can see here that I have opened my contact information and I've screenshot that. What we want to make sure that we have in our contact information are ways of contacting you, your email address. I advise mostly don't have your phone number. It's probably too personal. Also, don't have your home address. The address that's on here is my office address. It's not my home address. So you want to have your email addresses, your website, your office address if you have an office. If you don't, it doesn't matter. And then something that I believe is super important for entrepreneurs is this one little sentence of I work in person, in location, and via Zoom. So if somebody is looking to book services with you, they know that you're not just restricted by your city or your location. So for example, Poppy and Sean are in the UK. I'm in Amsterdam. We don't need to be in the same place to be working together. So the next really important thing is your public URL. And this is great for entrepreneurs that maybe don't have a website yet, that haven't bought a domain, and they're wanting to share something professionally about their identity. So what you have is a URL that is personalized to you. And where my cursor is right now, what we want to make sure is when we click in this little pencil, I'm not going to do it now because it will take too long. When we click into this little pencil icon here, we want to make sure that our public URL is correct and specific to us. And what LinkedIn will do is attribute a bunch of numbers after your name if you have a name like Lisa Thompson. There are thousands of Lisa Thompsons, believe it or not. So I had a bunch of numbers after my name. So I have to put in my middle name so that I have my two first names in my URL. So you might have to play around with that a little bit. I don't know if Sean had the same thing with her name, Sean Young. I don't know that. The next thing is where you can get verified, and getting verified basically means that it is social proof of who you say you are. And getting verified gives you this little badge, this little shield icon in here. The thing about getting verified is the company that LinkedIn use, it is completely safe, and some people feel a little bit strange about getting verified. So it's personal, but I would recommend it where you can. And the only place that it might be an issue is if your given name is different from the name that you have on your government issued ID, for example. When you work for a big company, so say for instance you worked for a big banking organization, you can also use your email address to do that as well. But we do want it where we can get verified, and then people know that who you say you are, you are. Then we're going to talk about what I like to call the 3 tiers of messaging. And the 3 tiers of messaging are your banner, which is the visual representation of you, your brand, your message. The third one is your headline, and that's the communicating who you are and who you serve concisely. And the third one is your about section. And this is what I talk about, I said in the beginning, if there's nothing else that you do, is just master these really basic fundamentals, then you're going to be in a great place. And here's the reason why. This is the kind of the most important real estate of LinkedIn, if you like. It's your banner, your headline, and your about section. And you want for this to look as visually appealing as possible. And you also want to know where you're directing readers, what you want them to do, how you're keeping them engaged in your profile, and how you're creating, I see a typo, oh my gosh, how you're creating some sort of visual consistency in your colors, and I'm going to talk about that with the images, but how you're just creating a little mini brand identity for yourself on your LinkedIn profile. So this is what 3 tiers of messaging looks like. And what I do when I do this work one-on-one with people is we do this work off LinkedIn. So you might want to take a book, a sketchbook, and map out or design out what you want your banner to say, what you want your headline to say, and what you want your about section to say, because they all should serve a different purpose that all ladder up to supporting you, supporting your profile, and supporting your positioning. So I really advise to think about these 3 areas as one complete package. And here I've just put in some banner best practices. Some of them are, most of these, actually everyone here is an entrepreneur. These are different entrepreneurs that I have found on LinkedIn. You might know Lara Acosta. This woman here is Dr. Dupe out of the UK. She does incredible work. And so the reason I've put these in is to show you that this idea of like having a big message on your banner is helping the rest of your profile. So if we look at this one here, Female Founders Rise, click the link in my bio. So already, even though you can't click the banner, there's something that's being said for you to do in that banner that is going to direct you to somewhere else on that person's. And this is Emmy Faust, who's the founder of Female Founders Rise, and she does incredible work. So big, bold messaging on your banner. I've put this in here so that you can scan, and I think pretty much every entrepreneur has a Canva account. It's free to set up a Canva account, and you want to think about your banner. I've put it here, be creative, contact details, company name, a call to action. It could be a calendar booking. It could be directing viewers to a button, a website, a download. It can be any of those things. Now, when we get on to the next part of that communication piece, we're talking about the headline. And the headline, you have 220 characters. And I always say, use those 220 characters wisely. That communicates who you are, what you do, your purpose, your why, your mission. And what I always say to people as well is research your niche, research the area that you're in, and look at your peers and look at how they are talking about themselves in their headline. The third one under this are profile pictures. And there's something that I'm not going to have you guess because we're not live right now. But what I pulled these 4 images together because all of these 4 images of all of these 4 entrepreneurs, all of them have like lots of things in common. One is the face is about 75% of the frame and the face is really visible. People like to be really creative and have an artsy shot, or they're looking at a screen or they're looking somewhere else. You want to be looking at the person. So when they land on your profile, they're almost getting eye contact with you. The other thing that they all do is they all put a color behind that, behind their image. They remove the background and they put a color behind because that again is helping with visibility on LinkedIn. And the thing that we want to remember is that when we're creating our profile picture, we're thinking of the profile picture in this context here at this size. But what we have to remember is that our profile picture in the feed, so once we're like in the feed, our profile picture is literally the size. I don't know any coins in the UK anymore. I'm so sorry. It's a 10-cent coin. It's tiny. It's this tiny little coin. So that's why people use these colors to identify them in the feed. And then the other thing that I've put in here, and this is almost like the sort of the next iteration of this workshop, if you like, is that anything that you put on LinkedIn, you want to make sure that you name the file source. So images have a default number, image 2456. You want to change that image name to your name so that everything that you put on LinkedIn is your name, which helps with search, which helps with keywords. It helps with reach essentially. So the about section. The about section is about the reader that you want to attract and how you can help them. We want to focus on the first 3 lines because what happens is the first 3 lines are visible and then there's a ... ellipses, and then you have to press that to read more. Focus on storytelling. It's not about media in your about section. It really is about storytelling in there. Write in the first person unless you are someone that's got hundreds of thousands of followers and somebody else does manage your LinkedIn, but try to write in the first person. And maximize search engine optimization with keywords and skills. A couple of examples that I've dropped in here is thinking about how people process content. So you can see here, like with these spaces that I've put in, if you think about now how we read information, if we read, updates, captions, social media platforms, tweets, they're all in little small character bases. And this is why we want for our character count in these sections to be digestible. We don't want big run-on sentences, run-on paragraphs that seems like it's a really hard piece of work that we're asking the reader to do. Oh, I went backwards there. Oh, I'm going backwards. I'm so sorry. Let's go forwards. Forwards, Lisa. Here we go. Forwards. Yes. So, and a couple of other examples too. And you're okay if you wanted to screenshot these examples, but we'll see if we can share some with you. The next thing is having a featured section. And a featured section, I have seen a lot of entrepreneurs that do not have a featured section. That is in, I believe it's in the recommended section. I'd have to go back to that slide at the beginning. It's in the recommendation section on LinkedIn. And a featured section is exactly what it says. It's almost like pinning posts. So you can pin posts, you can pin your contact information, videos. You can also add your company, you can add your website, you can add links, but use a featured section. And I've actually put mine in and I've put Sean's in. So my featured section, I have all links because my profile has all of my posts. And on my featured section, I want to direct people off LinkedIn into either book a discovery call with me. They can also book like one of my services, or they can read my design guide. And then on the opposite side, we have Shan's, and she wants to talk about her posts. She wants to talk about sustainability. She wants to highlight some of the work that she's doing. So neither is good or bad, right or wrong. It's entirely up to you what you want to do in your featured section. The next thing I want to talk about are skills, because like I said to you, skills are the kind of the lifeblood, if you like, of skills and keywords are the lifeblood of LinkedIn. And we want to make sure that for every role and every piece of content that is on LinkedIn, we are using skills and keywords. So they basically are essential to the LinkedIn algorithm. They help your ideal client understand who you are, what you offer, and how you can support their goals. And that's why using skills under each of your jobs, under each of your education, those skills also then almost become the way that you're searched for as well. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So your skills and keywords become the what you offer, the who you serve, and your delivery. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So here's an example of my 10 kind of keyword skills that I want to make sure that these are the things that I'm talking about consistently on LinkedIn. Storytelling, strategy, development, career pivots, workshops, you can see there. These are all the things that I talk about. I'm going to jump quickly because I've got 2 more little sections and I think I've got 3 minutes left. So I want to talk quickly about a service page. Again, this is free to set up. So we want to set up a service page, and I'm going to jump to what that looks like. This is my service page, and my service page is affiliated with my company page. And this is, again, why as an entrepreneur, you want to have a service page and you want to have a company page, because all of these pages and all of these things on LinkedIn, they support your work as an entrepreneur and get your work seen in multiple places. A company page is very, very similar setup to your personal profile. 3 tiers of messaging, skills and keywords, about section, services, commitments, and also a lead generation form. So here's an example of my company page. I wouldn't say that I'm in love with it, but I do have a presence. I do have a company page. And when you can click into these different tabs, it's giving you about the company, it's posts that are happening, people that work here, and then insights. And those insights are your commitments, basically. So I've just zoomed through that. Let me go back to Poppy. I've just minimized you, you see Poppy. Do you have any specific questions about anything that I've covered in that?
I think it's completely amazing how much content but laid out so clearly for us that you can really begin or enter in and update.
Yeah.
So thank you for delivering such comprehensive, succinctly, and beautifully done, presented. Thank you for that.
You're
I don't have
welcome.
any other questions.
Okay.
But
So I'll wrap up then, and we'll be right on time. So 4 key things to do is really get clear about what you want LinkedIn to do for you and how it can support your business. Master the fundamentals, which I talked about in the beginning, your clear identity and positioning. Build your profile, a company page, and a service page that showcase your expertise, what's unique about you, the value that you bring. And then the next step is you grow your influence through networking, connections, and of course, the big thing is content. People think that we start on LinkedIn with content. We don't. We start on LinkedIn with mastering the fundamentals. and then content follows. So if you'd like to get in touch or follow or connect with me, you can scan this QR code, and this is where I am.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you very much for that. And
You're welcome.
yeah, I'd love to connect with you because I think the work you're doing is amazing. But and the creative side of it that lines up alongside absolutely getting things on mark.
Yes, the creative, yes, a lot of people, like I said, a lot of people that will talk about LinkedIn, and there's no right or wrong, just different approaches, will zoom in more on the content. And I start my process on the visual, the identity, the positioning, the branding, the messaging, and then we move on to that. But building that first. And also using it a little bit as an entrepreneur as well, using it a little bit like a mini landing page. So it's in addition. So that's why, back to that video with Stephen Bartlett, start with your LinkedIn and then work out up from there.
That's great insights, Lisa. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And
I'll
yeah,
stop
we'll
sharing my.
finish up there. Thank you.
You're welcome.